Ever had a run-in with an officer who was more aggressive than helpful? You're not alone. We're digging into how this behavior affects not just individual encounters, but the entire relationship between police and the community. We'll explore how unprofessional behavior from police officers affects their interactions with the public and impacts community trust. On April 19, 2023, Officer Scott Harrell of the Texas City Police Department had an encounter with citizen Christopher Shull at a gas station in Texas City. Officer Harrell approached Shull after alleging that he had been speeding through the gas station's parking lot, nearly causing an accident with a white truck. The interaction, captured on BodyCam, reveals a contentious exchange between the officer and Shull. Shull insisted he hadn't thought he was doing anything wrong and was simply there to get gas. Harrell argued that Shull was speeding and cutting through parking spaces, which could have been dangerous. Despite Shull's claims that he was driving cautiously and that such behavior was common at that location, Harrell remained insistent. Harrell threatened to issue a citation for disregarding a traffic control device, stating he would have written a ticket if he hadn't run out of them. According to Texas law, Harrell was in the wrong, as the law on traffic control devices applies to public roads, not private parking lots. Harrell further escalated the situation by expressing his frustration with Shull's attitude, suggesting that he might still issue a ticket if he had more available, and even threatened to take Shull to jail for Class B reckless driving, despite there being no actual risk of hitting anyone. The confrontation deteriorated as Shull accused Harrell of abusing his power under the guise of authority, a term known as color of law. Harrell continued to argue, insisting that Shull's behavior was unsafe and that he would need to address it. The situation eventually led to Harrell arresting Shull, despite the encounter initially involving a minor traffic issue. The BodyCam footage led to Officer Scott Harrell's termination shortly after its release. The police chief issued a statement clarifying that Harrell's actions did not reflect the standards and dedication of the Texas City Police Department as a whole. Quick question before moving on. What traffic violation did Officer Scott Harrell accuse Christopher Shull of on April 19, 2023? A. Speeding. B. Running a red light. C. DUI. D. Not signaling. Answer. A. Speeding. If you think Officer Scott Harrell was out of line, wait till you see what Officer Bethany Guerrero did with an innocent civilian. On May 9, 2023, at a Palm Beach Gardens, Florida apartment complex, a dispute erupted involving resident Ryan Gold and another resident, Anna Ivanova. Gold was swimming when Ivanova asked him to change direction. When he did not comply, Ivanova called her husband, Benedetto Salvia, who arrived and revealed a concealed firearm. Gold reported the incident to 911 and awaited police in the parking lot. Officer Bethany Guerrero of the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department responded to the scene. As she approached Gold, she demanded he keep his hands out of his pockets, despite Gold's insistence that he had not committed a crime. Guerrero, however, pinned him to the ground, misunderstanding the situation and wrongly believing Gold was the individual brandishing the gun. Gold repeatedly told Guerrero that he was unarmed and questioned why he was being detained. Guerrero continued to insist on compliance and even threatened to arrest him, despite there being no evidence of a crime on his part. Gold was frustrated and confused, demanding to know why he was in handcuffs and expressing disbelief at Guerrero's actions. As the situation escalated, Guerrero narrated the incident to her supervisor and questioned Anna Ivanova's husband, Mr. Salvia, who initially exhibited the firearm. Despite Salvia's aggressive behavior and the fact that he was the one who should have been arrested, Guerrero failed to recognize the true culprit. Salvia claimed Gold was aggressive, but BodyCam footage showed that Salvia had started the altercation and was in the wrong. Gold was taken to the Palm Gardens County Jail, where he was held for several hours. It was only after another officer reviewed the footage and confirmed Gold's innocence that he was released without any criminal charges. On May 10, 2023, an investigation was opened into Officer Bethany Guerrero's actions. The investigation concluded that she had violated several department policies, leading to her swift termination from the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department. This is Officer Kenneth Skeen. On August 19, 2022, Officer Skeen, a member of the Albuquerque Police Department, confronted a 53-year-old mentally disabled man at a Target store. The man was attempting to pay for a bicycle with cash in the self-checkout aisle. Officer Skeen approached him, not realizing this encounter would have significant repercussions. Upon noticing the man's difficulty using the self-checkout, Officer Skeen asked him to gather his money and leave the store. The man, clearly distressed, explained that it had taken him a little while to handle his payment. Officer Skeen then threatened him with criminal trespassing charges while the man, visibly shaken, called 911. The man expressed confusion, not realizing that Officer Skeen was a police officer and not mall security. Officer Skeen insisted on arresting the man for not providing identification, despite the man's protests that he was merely paying for his items and was unaware of the police officer's identities. The officer then proceeded to arrest him, accusing him of resisting arrest and concealing his identity. Kenneth Skeen was later charged with unlawful arrest and fired from the Albuquerque Police Department. He faced criminal charges for false imprisonment, perjury, and filing a false police report, along with misdemeanor charges for battery. Did you know that the case highlights issues of police misconduct and the importance of proper identification and procedure during law enforcement encounters, especially involving vulnerable individuals? In another troubling case, Officer Ronald Kurzaya from the Tempe Police Department was involved in an incident of racial profiling. On August 29, 2020, Officer Kurzaya pulled his gun on Trevonyai Kumpian, an unarmed black hotel employee, without probable cause. Officer Kurzaya responded to a call about two individuals suspected of illegal activities at Hawthorne Suites in Tempe, Arizona. The general manager, Sean Hoover, had reported that a white male had brandished a gun. When Officer Kurzaya arrived, he repeatedly asked for a description of the suspect, focusing on whether the suspect was white or black. Despite being informed that the suspect was a white male with black pants, Officer Kurzaya pointed his gun at Kumpian, who was a black hotel employee. Kumpian, who was simply doing his job, had his hands up and repeatedly told Officer Kurzaya that he worked at the hotel. The situation escalated as Officer Kurzaya continued to hold his gun on Kumpian, despite the manager's clarification that Kumpian did not match the description of the suspect. The Tempe Police Department later launched an internal investigation, leading to Officer Kurzaya's resignation and voluntary relinquishment of his police license to avoid a mark on his record. Did you know that this case highlights the critical issue of racial profiling in law enforcement, where an officer's misjudgment based on racial bias can lead to severe and unjustified actions against innocent individuals? Rude behavior from police officers can significantly undermine trust and effectiveness in law enforcement. By addressing these issues head-on and promoting professionalism, we can work towards a more respectful and effective policing system. If you found this video informative, let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe.